During this robot tip, we're going to explain the relationship between Robot Console, message and resource monitoring, and an additional module in the robot product line called Robot Network. Robot Console is responsible for monitoring and automating messages, system resource monitoring, jobs, job queues, subsystems, and so forth. System history logs, such as QHIST, Security Audit Journal, as well as logs found in the IFS. Robot Console is installed on each one of your IBMI partitions if you're in a multi-partition environment. Each instance of Robot Console can automate messages and can escalate messages to the outside world via Robot Alert. However, if you're in a multi-partition environment, you can also include Robot Network into your environment. Like Robot Console, Robot Network is installed native on each IBMI partition, and it's used as the consolidation backbone for your Robot Console monitoring. And here's how it works. Any outstanding unautomated message or critical informational message happening on any one of your partitions will automatically be escalated from Robot Console into what's called the Robot Network Status Center. There's two forms of the Status Center. One is in the Robot Network graphical interface, the GUI interface that you install on your Windows PC. And we also have the Robot Network Status Center in our Insight browser web interface that you can use on any device, including mobile devices. At this point, Robot Network can also be used to send out escalation via Robot Alert. So rather than having each one of your partitions escalate separately via Robot Alert, you can have one instance of Robot Alert escalating from your Robot Network, what's called the host system. There's two components. There's a node component and a host component to Robot Network. Robot Network node would be installed on every partition, including the central controlling host system, and that would also have, of course, the host software installed on it. Likewise, you can also have an alternate host set up, so if your primary host goes down, all your other node systems can automatically fail over to the second host system. Any message that is escalated up into the graphical interface or the web interface can be answered from the interface, so you don't have to go to each individual interface to respond to a message. Okay, how do we set this up? Let's take a look. If you're in a single partition environment, you'll have a copy of Robot Console installed and Robot Alert to do your escalation. If you don't have any tools, maybe you're just using something like this, a green screen and displaying and working with QSysOper on occasion. So you may very well have a setup that looks like this, where you have multiple 5250 screens displayed dealing with QSysOper messages. However, if you've got Robot Console, you have something called a message center. All right, these are all the outstanding, in this case, critical informational messages that might be important to you. I've got two partitions that I'm monitoring in this particular environment with Robot Console. I have my Wisdom partition and I have my Academy partition. In a single partition environment, you'll have a single QSysOper message center, and it's here where you can do user notification, which is basically a green screen break message or GUI pop-up. I can also interface to Robot Alert, and then I also have this option for message redirection, and this is where Robot Network comes in. What I can do is I can escalate to a message center called Host Center, and the system that I'm going to be escalating to is my central robot network system, which is my Wisdom system, and I'll escalate after 15 seconds. And we've already got our message center for QSysOper escalating to the host system here on Academy. So let's test this out. Let's launch Robot Network, and we will connect to my central host system called Wisdom, and let's look at the status center. All right, now what you'll see here is each node system listed. I only have two node systems, but all messages from both systems are listed here. The column that says product will indicate what robot product that the message is escalating from. Could be robot monitor, could be robot schedule, in this case job ended abnormally. Could be Robot Console. In this case, we've got a subsystem that's not active. Further, let's test out the escalation for an inquiry message. Okay, I've got a message waiting in QSysOper on one of my systems. It's right here. What's happening now is Robot Console is intercepting that message, looking at the list of rules to see if it can automate the message. If it cannot, it's going to escalate that into the central Robot Network Status Center. So we've got a pop-up now here in the Robot Network notifier in my system tray that there's a new message or status waiting to be managed by somebody in operations. I'll hit the refresh button and here is that message. So let's double click on it. It's here where you can see the first and second level message text. You can also insert notes, and the notes stays with the Robot Network history. There's also additional history regarding has the message been escalated elsewhere, and further message details such as what job generated the message. If I decide to answer the message, I've got a couple ways to do that. I can right click on it and say reply. Notice the valid replies are shown. And if I choose that, you'll see the message goes gray. It disappears next time the GUI refreshes, and the message reply is sent back to the QSysOper message on whatever remote system I'm dealing with. Remember, all this is happening native. This is all native software. Additionally, we have a web representation of the Robot Network Status Center. This is called Insight. Insight is free to any licensed Robot Network, Schedule, Console, and Reports customers, as well as for PowerTech. So here I'll choose Network. I'll click on the Status Center, and you'll see the same messages such as Q programmer is not active, job ended abnormally, and so forth. You'll see these same messages that were in the Robot Network GUI. It does require that you install the Insight HTTP server in a Windows or Linux environment, and then it connects back to your IBM via a JDBC connection. So that's the relationship between Robot Console and Robot Network. If you have any additional follow-up questions, please feel free to reach out to technical support. Thanks for listening.